Armenia is a country in Western Asia. It's bordered by Turkey, Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Iran. Unlike its neighbors, it's a Christian nation and was the very first country to do so. It has also been part of many empires, such as the Persian, and then the Ottomans, and then it became a part of the Soviet Union before gaining its independence in 1991. Being one of the many different ethnic groups of Western Asia, Armenia has had its fair share of spats with its neighbors, particularly with Turkey, their former occupier, and Azerbaijan, which was also part of the Soviet Union, but we'll get to them in another video. The tensions between the two countries are due to three major reasons. Firstly, as I mentioned before, until the 19-teens, Armenia was part of the Ottoman Empire. The process of getting autonomy was difficult. Though the Ottoman Empire was on the decline for a super long time, it still had enough power to suppress Armenian cries for independence. Armenia's first big resistance movement was in 1894 to 96 in the region of Bitlis, which ended in abject failure on the part of the Armenians, with 80 to 100,000 dead. This led to many more struggles, culminating in the Armenian genocide in 1915 to 1917. Needless to say, the harsh crackdowns on the Armenian people led to much death and suffering. Added to the fact that Turkey will not acknowledge this as a genocide is why there's still tensions between the two countries to this day. The second is the drawing of the borders in the 1920s, laid out by the Kars Treaty, wherein which the borders were drawn between the USSR and Turkey. The agreement left regions that were historically Armenian, like Mount Ararat, to Turkey. Though the Armenian government has recognized the borders as they are, there's still many who see it as a slight to the Armenian people who wanted to have all the Armenians in one country. The final most recent reason is the Nagorno-Karabakh incident. It's an autonomous region within Azerbaijan with a significant Armenian population. Nagorno-Karabakh wanted to be independent and possibly also unite with the rest of Armenia. Armenia went to war in 1988 against Azerbaijan to help set them free. However, that failed for the most part, and there are still border skirmishes that happen, even though there was a ceasefire called in 1994. But we'll get into those details when we talk about Azerbaijan in the coming weeks. But where does Turkey fit into all this? Well, Turkey's decided to support Azerbaijan, which has been terrible for relations with their neighbor. That's partially the reason why they closed the border between the two countries. To this day, both sides are not represented diplomatically in each other's nations. Still though, Armenians still go to Turkey and are able to get visas on arrival, and there have been many talks about normalizing relations and reconciliation. Turkey wants Armenia to abandon all claims that the deaths of Armenians by the hands of the Turkish soldiers in 1915 to 17 was a genocide, as well as acknowledge the borders of Nagorno-Karabakh, which Armenia has not done. There was some headway in creating relations between the two countries in 2009 at a conference in Zurich, Switzerland. However, this was short-lived as both sides were not pleased about the results in their respective countries. Since then, there hasn't been much push for normalization. Armenia is doing perfectly fine trading with Russia and the rest of the West, leaving the borders of Armenia and Iran open to do so. And Turkey has had other issues to deal with, such as the coup that happened earlier in July, and dealing with the Kurds, so those other things have halted progress with Armenia. As it stands, it seems that both parties aren't going to change anytime soon. Unless something changes politically, there's not much that's going to change between the two countries. Azerbaijan and Armenia is something that's a lot more antagonistic and quite interesting, but we'll get to that in the coming weeks. Until then, stay tuned for new videos. Until next time.